Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Do we get to see you tonight or no?
Yeah, no, I am just not an evening person.
I understand, but it's so mysterious.
Yeah, that's me.
Hi, Varda.
I have no lights on. I'm just sitting here in the dark.
Have you been sitting there since we spoke at
Sorry.
early this morning?
Yep.
Do you two know each other? You have kids around the same age, actually.
I think so.
Oh, I don't think so. Hi,
Hello.
I'm in Sharon, and I have a son, Aryeh, who is 20.
You're Sharon?
Yes, I'm in Sharon.
Oh, in Sharon. Okay, I was thinking, isn't your name Marilee? But
My
okay,
name is Marilee.
now I
but
understand.
I
Okay.
live in Sharon.
Yes. I have a 21-year-old son. We live in Lexington.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready for my son's penultimate IEP, so I'm kind of stressed.
Got it.
Are you both familiar with the JVS program?
No, I was really excited to hear this.
Oh,
I'm not
good.
sure what I've heard of them. I don't know what they do.
Oh, great. Awesome.
So are they the same as, or are they related to Jewish family and children's services?
They are different.
They're different? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are all under an umbrella of Jewish communal agencies for people with disabilities, and we all have some funding from CJP.
Mhm.
They also have, if you look at their website, disabilities is one slice of their pie. They help anybody with job opportunities, refugees, immigrants, people who just lost their jobs for all different reasons, and need job and training support. And JFNCS also has disabilities as like a slice of their pie, and they help, lots of social service agency. So they're parts that overlap. But
Okay.
yeah, but I think this transitions to work program, I'm hoping he'll speak mostly about. It's not for everybody, but it's very cool. When it was in person, I went down to their office in Boston, and they have a mock CVS set up. It's really cute for them to like train in and learn all the different skills, how to stock a shelf, how to use a cash register, all the different skills that you would need at a CVS. It's a very sweet little place. Hi, Edith. Can you hear us, Edith? I don't think she can hear us yet.
There's always a delay.
Hi.
Hi.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear us? I thought so. Let me chat. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now. Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Good.
How are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Good. I'm going to change your name. There we go. Do you know Varda and Marilee? You know Marilee.
Yes.
At this point. And Varda?
Varda, I don't know if we've met before. Nice to meet you.
I think I saw you at a meeting a few weeks ago.
Okay.
I mean,
last month.
Another one of these.
Yes.
These meetings.
Yeah, maybe. And tell me again about your son or daughter.
I have a 21-year-old son. Yeah, what about you?
I have a 30-year-old stepson and also a 21-year-old son.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Edith is, she had my position before I did at Yachad, and she's my guru, go-to for every issue I ever have. And speaking of that, Edith, it's been a while. We should talk.
Yes.
We need to find a time to talk.
Yes, we will set up time for sure. Is your son living at home?
Yes. Yes, he is.
So he's still in school?
Well, he's 10 months from,
Graduating
yeah,
or
right,
turning 22,
turning 22.
as the case may be.
Yes.
There's a, hi Yafa. I love having another Yafa here. You're on mute, just so you know. There's checklists we can go over, Varda. If the school system hasn't done that with you, we can go over one of those turning 18, turning 22 checklists.
Yeah. All right.
All those things.
Yeah.
How are you, Yafa?
Okay. I think hanging in there like everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting subject because Gil is a freshman in high school now. He just started. And they, you know, we're just starting the whole transition to the school year, and then I'm learning about all the transition for afterwards. So this is, I think, is going to be very good to know about.
Yeah, it's never too early to start learning about everything out there.
Yeah, I must say, I didn't know about such an option at all. And then my thinking is, you know, how to actually, if he's in the public system and he's going to go into whatever they have as suggestion and plans, and how that is going to be incorporated.
Yes, I mean, we're talking a lot right now about some of the options that will that may be available to people 22 and over. But as Yafa said, it's great that you're already doing it, because there's a lot of things a lot of information you can get years in advance that can be really helpful,
Right.
instrumental in your thinking.
Yeah, it's like it's good to know about, so you can, if it's good, then you steer towards it. And this is what is,
Exactly.
Mhm.
What school system is your son in?
In Brookline.
Okay, yeah, it's a good system.
Yeah.
You know, you also have right now 2 parents here of teen boys that might have advice. If you guys, Marilee and Varda, have any, I think you would want to tell somebody who has an incoming freshman as they start to plan. You know, you guys are a wealth of knowledge for each other.
I think that it so depends. I don't even know what it would have been like if he was entering high school in this weird hybrid
Oh yeah.
model and getting into that. My son did have a very difficult first couple months in high school. And he's like, anytime he goes into a new situation, and this is especially scary when you're going to the vocational world, he likes to test people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he got through it, but he definitely, and then it was great. But he had that's him.
No, it sounds like mine. and so we started as remote because the summer was remote, and the beginning of the year was very weird, but it didn't work out at all when the high school year started. It was totally different, and being in high school. So we quickly, he was supposed to be in person, but they also said if you want him to be remote. So we quickly switched him to in person the 4 days, and it's much better. It's really was much better. So.
Does he like it?
Yeah, he does. He does. But he, like you said, he also kind of tested. It was a lot of new stuff. I think I'm gonna move because he just came to my area. No, that's okay. You can stay. So we didn't have the transition that I was hoping that I'm gonna have. And it was the 8th grade, it was all ended in March. So, and they were supposed to have visits and they were supposed to have much more communication and with the IEP, and I was supposed to meet the staff. It was just a mess. But, you know, we can't really, I'm glad we are where we are now. So.
Good. Yeah, it's important, I think, to have patience, because I think at least in our case, we are an out of district placement, but it's still in the public schools. And I do believe they're doing their best. It's just, this is unprecedented and no one planned on.
Right. Correct. Yes. So, yep.
Hi, Pam. How are you?
No, I was going to say, I think the transition from middle school to high school is challenging for everybody. And then you put all the COVID changes on top of it, and you put on some of the special programming that kids need.
Right.
And it just complicates the whole situation.
Yeah. They have some of the programs that they said that they were going to have, they can't have, which is more, you know, going into the community. So they basically in the school, but really, you know, we just hoping that soon we're going back to some kind of a better normal. So.
Right. Well, teachers are about to be getting vaccinated, and that's going to make a big difference, I think. Or it certainly has the potential to make a big difference.
If the union, I'm not going to sorry. I just can't safely comment on that. I have very strong opinions on that, and I don't want to burden anyone with them.
Well, it's up to you, Marley, but you certainly can share them. I am a teacher who never taught I've never taught long-term beyond a long-term sub. I would never join the union. And at one point I recall I lived in Chicago, and the teachers union rep said, when the students pay us, we'll care about what happens with the students. I think they have proven well beyond a shadow of a doubt they don't have the students' interests even on their radar. Sorry, I knew that. No, don't apologize.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Do you guys live near each other? I know you're both in Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon's a small town.
We're friends.
Yeah.
And apparently both modest in the evenings.
Who wants to put on a hat?
Good to see everybody. We're going to get started. Our guest speaker is not on yet, but he has the link and should be joining in just a few minutes. It's wonderful to see everybody. Some new faces here. Hi, Judith. Good to see you. Does everyone know each other?
Really? No? Hello? Varda.
Why don't we do like super quick then? Your name, who your child is, their age, your town. Just go around. Varda, you start.
My name's Varda. My son is Jesse. He's 21. He we live in Lexington.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yafa.
My name is Yafa, and we have a son, Gil, who is in the Brookline system, and he's 14. You know, I'm just starting to learn about all these vocational things, and you know, in his IEP they just started talking about you know, doing they gave him a questionnaire, what he likes. So I'm totally new to this world now.
Thank you. Pam and Mark.
Sure, we're Pam and Mark Goldstein. Our son is Henry, and he's 20. We're also in Lexington, so I'm wondering if I know Jesse.
What school is he in?
Henry goes to Neshoba Learning Group, where they did more vocational training before this. They still do it at the desk, but not so much where he had lots of different jobs and different things. But they told us when we started at Neshoba that he was 3 years behind because Lexington hadn't done anything.
Edith, can you take over while I call Micah and make sure he's coming in?
Oh, now we can't hear you. You're mute. Oh.
You're muted, Edith.
Okay, maybe she can't hear us.
She's still mute. She's still muted.
No.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, now we can hear you.
okay, sorry. My computer was not cooperating. Judith, how about you and your child?
I am Judith Markson. I live in Boston. Our son David is 19. He's in his 13th year of high school at Pathways Academy, which is a therapeutic high school located in our living room right now. And I'm curious to hear what Jewish Vocational Services has to offer him.
Welcome, Micah. We're just doing a really quick go around because not everybody here knows each other.
All right.
Your children actually might know each other in groups, and the parents just don't always get a chance to get to know each other. But you'll see a text message from me that you can ignore. I just wanted to make sure you have the.
Oh, I saw somebody calling and I thought, do I answer? I'm about to log
No
on.
problem. It was
I'm
me.
glad it was you. Yeah.
All right. Who's next, Edith?
Oh, hi, Ellen. Ellen and I actually know each other. Ellen.
Yeah.
Hi, Ellen.
Good.
How are you?
Okay.
Good. Can you just tell us a little bit about your situation? We're just going around kind of introducing everybody.
Okay. I have two boys, a 21 and a 23. My 23 is on the autistic spectrum and also bipolar. So I'm really working on his stuff.
Marilee?
I have two sons. The one I am here for is my 20-year-old who is on the autism spectrum, and he is in the Canton adult program for 18 to 22.
And Lauren?
I'm also known as Rachel. My daughter Miriam is 18 and she is in her final year at TECA, which is an online public school for those people who aren't familiar with it. And we live in Sharon.
Great. Is that everybody? Well, thank you all for joining, and I'm going to just pass the baton right over to Micah. Micah and I have known each other now for a few years, and it's so nice to have community partners. Yachad and JVS are constantly referring people back and forth, and we want all of our folks to have meaningful days and jobs and friends and social opportunities in the afternoons and evenings. So it's a win-win to connect to each other and connect each other's services and supports. And we're going to hear a little bit about transitions to work and career counseling. And I think because it's a nice small group, we'll have time for questions. And Micah, if it's okay with you, we can share, I'll snip out the beginning of this where everyone introduced themselves and share just the recording from Micah's presentation on. So that would be great in case you want to review or if people weren't here tonight.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is really wonderful. You'll find out very quickly, I really enjoy talking about our work, almost to a fault. So I can go on and on. So at a certain point, I may get yanked, which is fine. But I'll try and, wow, my face is really large right here. I'm going to change to gallery view. Oh,
Sorry.
this is a lot more modest. So my name's Micah Fleisig. I work for Jewish Vocational Service. Excuse me, in Boston. I've been working there for, this is my 10th year or 11th year. And I had been out of work for quite some time before I started. So I often can relate to some of the struggles that our clients go through with the frustration and disappointment and really this overwhelming despair sometimes of feeling it's not good enough or whatever the case may be. But I work in JVS's Disability Services Department. JVS, for those that don't know, it's a workforce development nonprofit agency in Boston. It started in the 30s, I believe, for Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe and Russia, I believe. And we have a lot of departments now. Probably our largest is the Refugee Services Department. We have other ones like skills and English as a second language classes, adult diploma, bridges to college. But I'm here to talk about the programs in disability services, and I'll try and leave a little bit of time to speak about some of the other ones. I work specifically in transitions to work. Well, I work mostly in the transitions to work program. And so we started in 2011. I remember the date quite fondly. I always tell people November 7th of 2011, because it was very clear on that day. We had no idea what we were doing, but we learned as we went, and it's been a wonderful ride. So we now work with individuals up to 35 years old. That's just for transitions to work. So anytime I meet somebody who's older than 35 or who's 36 and up, there are other options, which I'll talk about. But when we started, our average age was probably late 20s, early 30s. Right now, our average age is probably in the early 20s. That's for a few reasons. One is because we've been partnering with school systems more and more. The other is, I think it's part of the reason you're here, is that families are really pushing their kids to get out, to have more opportunities, to flourish, to grow, to figure out what they like and don't like, what their strengths and challenges are. And my director, Jeff, often quotes this study, which I don't know the statistics, but he says that the two biggest indicators of success after high school are, one, that high school students work in some capacity, and two, it's parental what the families expect. So meaning like the expectations, pushing the kids. And so the program we have is for people with disabilities, any type of disability, doesn't matter. We don't require even documentation. So if somebody identifies as having a disability, that works. And our clients come from all different backgrounds. Some have had plenty of jobs before, and some are struggling to understand what a job actually is and what it means. We have clients in high school and those who have college degrees and everything in between. But we run, so I'll talk about what we were doing up until the pandemic, up until March 13th of last year, and then what we're doing now. But what we were doing was partnering with employers like Newbridge on the Charles in Dedham, which is part of Hebrew Senior Life, partners like Beth Israel Deaconess in Longwood, Boston Children's Hospital, Whole Foods Market in Medford, Spalding in Cambridge, Spalding Hospital in Cambridge. And we were partnering with these organizations to implement hands-on internships for our clients that would run about 8 to 10 weeks in length. They were 5 days a week. So we we felt that continuity, consistency really helped. And the internships would, after orientation, which all happened on site at the employer, because we want to really enmesh ourselves in the employer culture, in the work culture. And so we would have a brief 1 or 2 week orientation, getting to know the area, getting to know the different teams and the internship opportunities, getting to know each other and build rapport, and then practice some of the basic job readiness skills, whether it's time management, hygiene and appearance, customer service, some of the basics, which can still be really quite challenging. And what we did was then implement, so weeks like 3 through 8 or 3 through 10, we'd implement a hands-on internship. Typically it would occur Monday through Thursday. We'd start out at about 2 hours per day, and we increase in half-an-hour increments. The key we realized was to increase when the individual was ready. So at first we said, all right, after 2 weeks, we'll increase to 2.5, after another week, 3 hours. That doesn't work. You got to go to the individual and see what makes sense. So, and I should mention, these internships are not paid. We don't do a stipend. But they are individual internships. There's no group internship. So each client had their own internship that they would pretty much own. They were mentored not by us, but by the employees at the site. So most of our internships are in the service industry: customer service, food service, housekeeping, patient services, delivery, not delivery by car, but delivering packages on a cart. But the key was to really figure out where each client was at and where they wanted to go for the next step. And ideally, the next step after that, and after that, and after that. So it always depended on the individual. We at first came up with a set of rules and expectations and quickly realized that just doesn't work. I mean, there are basic professional behaviors and expectations we communicate, but to kind of set like consequences or like hard and fast rules just doesn't make sense for an individual. So we would take in a group of about 8 to 10 individuals and have them do internships. And the internship choices really depended on their interests, their strengths, and their challenges. One of the best one of the best experiences I had was one of our clients, I'll call him John. John was trying to figure out what internship he wanted. And John, super quiet, had some social anxiety, had some challenges with interacting, reading cues. And he had all these different internship options. And he decided to pick the delivery option where he delivered packages to residents at Newbridge on the Charles. And I asked him why he thought that would be the best bet. And he expressed to me, and I was blown away. He said, I want to learn how to talk with other people, but I don't want to be overwhelmed. He didn't use the word overwhelmed, but he basically said, I want to be forced to basically interact with others without it being constant. So like doing a cashier internship or doing like front-facing customer service just was too much, too quick for John. So he did that, and it was a great experience. So we're trying to figure out where people are at and where they want to go to. And part of it's figuring out not only what people like, but what they don't like, and the work environments as well. Is it okay if something is more, if it's a wide open area, or should it be like a tighter enclosure, tighter community? Are sounds bothersome? Is it tough to focus or concentrate, or are there sensory issues? Is it helpful to have regular check-ins? So what we do as staff is we are on site at all times. Our rule is, if we're not on site, you can't intern. So one or more staff are there to go around to each internship. Normally we'd have about 4 or 5 interns in the morning, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Sometimes they duplicate the internship if it made sense. So like somebody who did a cashiering internship in the morning, there may be opportunity for a different client to do an internship in the afternoon. Same thing. They just weren't crossing. But again, they're mentored by the employees, and often the head mentor, sometimes it's just a one-to-one, but sometimes it's a small team, and the lead mentor, so to speak, is usually either someone who's just the leader of the staff, or it's someone who's been there a while, or it's somebody who has like the kindest heart, or maybe it's somebody who has somebody in their life who has a disability and kind of wants to give back. Or, I mean, there are so many different reasons, but the amount of stories I've had about these bonds that happen and the growth in the community, it's pretty unbelievable. So after about the 8 to 10 weeks, we've already really gotten to know the clients. We've spent a lot of time with them. And by the way, I mentioned internships are Monday through Thursday. Friday was a class day. It was kind of a continuation of the orientation. So it was delving in to increased work expectations, tougher customer service scenarios, working with tough bosses, tough colleagues. That's a real tough one. And really figuring out like, problem solving, so that what I always tell clients is, when you go into a job after hour program, you're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to have all the comfort, but our job is to increase some of the understanding, some of the comfort, take off some of the edge, in whatever that edge is, whether it's anxiety, or whether it's kind of just understanding some of the basic expectations. So by the time that's done, we've gotten to know the clients, and I'd say typically our clients want to pay jobs after the training. Mostly part-time, but it could be full-time as well. But I'd say the majority of our clients average probably 20, maybe 25 hours per week. But some clients were doing 12 hours per week. But the job placement piece we do after is individualized, completely one-to-one. And prior to COVID, probably about 80% of our clients wanted a paid job after. Now we're probably down to about 60%. I think that's probably a fair estimate. People are keeping safe, people are staying in, and that's fine. We want people to feel comfortable. If they want to look for paid jobs out in the community right now, great. If they don't, great. Whatever it is, it's a personal choice. So we do the job placement, and our program is 1 year from their start date of their session, of their training. So right now we're doing it virtual, and I'll explain that more in a moment, but we had a session that started January 19th of 2021, and they're our clients until January 19th of 2022. So after the session, they're our clients for that remainder of that year. And whether it means that they're looking for paid jobs or wanting to feel more comfortable, in that runway from training to job is going to be different for each person. Sometimes some of our clients want a job yesterday for whatever reason, either because that's been their goal all along, or they need money in their pocket, whatever it may be. And some of our clients need to take it slow and steady, and really kind of think it through and feel it through. One of our clients who participated in our training program 3 summers ago, I think it's been now. I think it's been 3 summers. She came back to us through other funding stream, which I can talk more about. But it took her a long time to get to the place where she was ready to interview. It was a long road, which is fine. Everybody takes their own time, but we do everything. We help create the resume or update it. We do cover letters if needed. We do a lot of interview preparation. If a client wants us to go on an interview with them, and if we think it's in their best benefit, we do that. Sometimes we'll just wait outside for them. Sometimes we'll sit in the interview with them. Again, It depends what's in the best interest of the client. Sometimes our clients are good to go and they want us there anyway. And it's kind of one of those judgment calls. It's like like the individual may interview really well. So why are we going to put ourselves right there and kind of let them take it if they feel confident, if we feel confident? Again, up to the individual. We're able to do ongoing supports after job placement. It's on a limited basis. Our theory is if somebody needs constant on the job supports, we're not the right agency for them. We just don't do that. Some agencies, there are plenty of agencies that do that, but we don't do constant one-to-one job coaching. We can be there for the initial training period and orientation, the onboarding. We can be there for the first week of work. We do check-ins with the clients and or the bosses. We can be there to help problem solve. We run in a moment's notice if there's a fire that needs to be put out. But our goal is to find the right fit for each client, and that job's going to always differ. But what we're looking at is what somebody can do, wants to do, and is qualified to do. And that takes a very different form depending on the client. So that's the program in a nutshell. I can talk more about curriculum. I can talk more about kind of the backgrounds of our clients, the backgrounds of our staff, the individual schedules. But I want to quickly mention about what we're doing now because it's quite different. So we had a session going on. It's a different type of session. It's a CVS retail customer service session that occurs oh so conveniently in our building on Federal Street in Boston, because CVS has what they would see, the Workforce Innovation and Talent Center. It's got a nice ring to it. So they have it right there in our building. It's kind of their mock store and training facility where they used to do all their trainings in the greater Boston area, not all, but a lot of them. Now they're doing more one-offs. Well, they were doing more one-offs there before COVID. And it's, they do it for managers or sometimes new employees, but they're doing more CVS is doing more training in the actual stores now. But they have cash registers, which replicate CVS cash registers. It's just not a live system. And it's not real money. You know, it's paper money, plastic coins, but they have all the parts there. And so we do the training actually for that. The CVS one, the staff does the training. We partner with the CVS WITSE staff to help us out, to help introduce us to CVS's, but we do the training. But we had a session going on and March 13th, we closed up, JVS closed up. So by the 16th, our doors were closed, but by the 16th, by the 24th, we were back in session. Out of the 10 clients we had in the CVS session, we got 9 back on that following Tuesday, the 24th. The 10th one, we had to wrangle in a little bit and find him, but he ended up completing as well. So since then, we have graduated 6, I believe, 6 different sessions on Zoom. JVS has done an amazing job with equipping us with this computer, which I'm using now. They gave one to every single staff. They have a laptop lending library for any client. They lend out hotspots. They've done some things with additional resources for clients, but they've equipped us with everything we need to give the best services possible. The struggles have been that's not in person. Building rapport and just the one-to-one check-ins that can just happen off the cuff, that can just be like, hey, let me talk to you in the hall for a quick moment. It's a lot tougher now. The hands-on learning, well, it's not hands-on, but what we've been doing is everything we can to replicate as much as possible. So mock interviews on Zoom. We've been doing certificate-based industry-based certifications, starting with ServSafe, food handler certification, industry recognized. And so we've been trying to figure out ways. We've been using CVS's videos and training materials. We've been trying to do everything we can to help our clients get the next steps. And we do, right now we're doing Zoom sessions for about 6 weeks. They are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and they are about only an hour and a half each of those days. We do a coaching session another day that week, but that's up to the individual, the day and time. But we've had a lot of success. Like I said, only about 60% of our graduates really want paid jobs right now, which is fine. We have other opportunities for them after, like whether it's workshops or classes. But those clients that do want jobs, we're still helping our clients get jobs. It's been a lot tougher. Partway through March through June was rough. By the end of July, it got a little bit better for job placement and continue to do well. I'll be honest, January, February, pretty tough again, which is actually typical, but just tougher than usual. So again, that's what we're doing now. And I should mention this, there is a benefit to this Zoom. We have clients that normally would not be able to access our training, either because they live too far away or they don't have the resources to get to us, or anxiety can sometimes prevent them from getting out of the house or meeting new people. Zoom, of course, gives anxiety on a whole different level, but for some of our clients, we would have never met them if we were only doing in person. So it's been pretty amazing for that. So that's transitions to work. I can really talk for at least an hour more about it, but I'll spare you. If
think
I
there
have time, yeah.
There are some questions.
Oh, yeah.
You can take a pause.
Sure.
Marilee, do you want to start with some of your questions?
Thank you. Well, my son's 20, so I don't really know how this works, but how does one become a client? And how are you funded through the state? Like, is it through DDS or some other agency? How does that process work?
Okay. So, well, let me take the application process first. We try and make it as easy as possible because whether it's based on time or just nervousness or whatever it may be, it can be tough. But we start out, sometimes we start out now with me just speaking to an individual or a family to see if it's the right fit. We don't want people applying to find out that no way, it's not even close to a fit. So sometimes it's just a discussion. But there's a paper application, which I can share with you. I actually have it pulled up so I can show you if you want, but it's it asks for demographics, benefits, contact info, disability, so on and so forth, work history. Often that's emailed to me as a PDF or Word document, typically a Word document. And then I set up about a 45-minute interview on Zoom. It's one-to-one. So we ask if family wants to overhear and listen, to be in the background out of sight, because we want the applicants to really kind of take ownership. Interviews can be really rough. I try and make it as much of a discussion as possible, not an interview, but it's about based on their interests and goals and strengths and challenges, and just their overall experiences. So after that, we call 2 or 3 references. They're listed on the application. They are anyone other than family who knows the applicant. It can be a therapist, it can be a teacher or former teacher, it can be a boss or former boss, it can be a vocational counselor, it can be a neighbor, it can be a clergyman, it can be anyone. As long as we get like information, again, we're asking about the experiences, the strengths and challenges, learning styles. How do the applicants accept feedback? What works, what doesn't? At that point, we look at it, and before that, we figure out, is there a specific session that is a good fit or a better fit? And then we look at the probability of somebody getting in to the session that's coming up. There's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes we have a wait list, and other times we have spots open as we're about to begin. I try and be as transparent as possible with everyone. But that's the application process. It was a little bit more complicated in person because we had to do onboarding with the employer partner, except for Whole Foods, who just let us come in and do anything, which was very refreshing. But for Zoom, it's a lot easier. We get them set up. There does need to be technology, but again, JVS has a laptop lending library where people can borrow laptops. The biggest problem we found is connection, and sometimes the hotspots just don't do it well enough. The funding stream. We try and do everything we can to make sure the applicants and families do not pay anything other than like needed materials. For when we were in person, they'd have to pay for transportation, maybe some professional clothing. But again, we can help out to a certain extent with that. But so we partner with different funding streams. Some of it is indirectly from the state, but we try and do everything we can. Schools have been able to pay to a certain extent, but we're looking to schools more and more. We don't want anybody to not be able to do our program because of funding. So we get some funding through CJP, well, JVS does, but there are different funding streams and there are different eligibility guidelines for certain funding streams, but the funding stream doesn't dictate the services the person receives. It's the same opportunities, it's just who pays. Is it Massachusetts or is it, a philanthropic organization, or is whomever it is. Yeah.
So you do not have to be go through DDS or anything like that. You don't have any form of, that I have to. You said it was without documentation or not necessary documentation of disability, which is the first time I've heard that.
Well, our funders don't request it. One funder used to, and they stopped requesting it. And I'll be honest, if somebody feels like they have struggles, real challenges, we want to work with them and help them. We sometimes, after the training, and after we've done some job placement, if there needs to be additional supports, additional work needed to be done, then sometimes we can go to DDS and Mass Rehab Commission. We go to the families first, of course, or the individual clients, but sometimes they can provide increased supports. So sometimes, more times than not, we just do it on our own for that year. But then other times our clients will finish the year, look to DDS and wrap back in with us. We have actually, it's been happening more and more. Mass Rehab, same thing. Mass Rehab is actually more flexible with providing that funding, although DDS is certainly more comprehensive. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. Let's say somebody has DDS funding for a day program, and they choose self-direction instead of a day program. Can they use that? Like, does it work
The
for
funding
people
for that?
who would qualify for DDS?
So the self-directed, I don't quite understand it. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. To be honest, I really don't know. It seems like it should work because feels very flexible. I just don't know. It's never happened before. So DDS has referred clients to us for our training, but they don't pay for it. So, we're thankful for any referrals we can get. Like I said, sometimes we have open spots, sometimes not. But those DDS referrals will eventually, maybe, if needed, go back to the DDS coordinator and say, hey, John is completing his training. We're going to do job placement. Eventually, he may need some extra supports. Let's talk it through. But sorry, I don't know about the self-directed.
Anybody have any other questions about this?
I can talk about a few other options in disability services, if you like, both based on DDS, mass rehab. There's a program, one-to-one services called Connections.
Judith, did you have a question?
Yes. If my son is not interested in, he's not ready to get a job, but he wants to volunteer as a means to understand where he might fit in, how would your services apply to him?
It's a great question. So in the past, doing the hands-on internships would be perfect, right? Call it internship or volunteer. Yeah. So that would be perfect. Now it's a little bit different. Connections does work with their clients to find volunteer opportunities. Connections is free. The requirement, I think it's 18 and up, but I'm not positive. Maybe they can take younger, but it's one of the only programs at JVS where you have to be Jewish. So that's really the only requirement. Well, Jewish and have a disability.
So it's Connections. Who coordinates that?
My colleague, Joanna, and I can, whatever makes sense, I can type into a chat, I can email. So there are certain people, like those that work through mass rehab would go to this person. Those that want to find out more about Connections, talk to Joanna.
Right.
I can give you the basics. It's one-to-one services now through Zoom, but they are based on either finding jobs or volunteer opportunities for Jewish clients, and it's not up to 35. They have people of all ages who identify as having a disability. And that funding comes through CJP. And there's an anti-poverty initiative as well through CJP and JF&CS and a few other organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Volunteering, interning, just learning about work, it's really important. Going from 0 to 60 is tough for anyone, tough for most of us, especially if you've never had any experience. It's a great way to kind of get in and kind of get a feel for some of the expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Are there other programs besides Connection and Transition to Work that you want to touch upon?
So the other programs in disability services are one-to-one, like Connections, right? So before it was one-to-one with a career coach in the office. Now it's one-to-one here on Zoom. And it's typically what Transitions to Work does, but without the training piece. So it's about creating or updating a resume, job searching, applications, interview preparation, job placement. Connections is the one that does do volunteer opportunities, but Mass Rehab Commission sends referrals to us through what they call CIES, Competitive whatever, I don't know. But CIES is the funding stream, and they refer their clients to us. The one thing is that they, I think, typically have to be out of the school system. Prior to that, MRC has PREETs, which I'm guessing some of you are familiar with. PREETs, pre-employment transitional services. It was started through WIOA quite a few years ago. It's taken a little while to get up and going. We were part of this as a provider and then realized it's just not for us. But I urge you, if you are part of a school system, and I don't know how it works for private schools, I'm not sure, but for any public school system, you should have a mass rehab PREETs counselor assigned to the school. Who you ask about it depends on the school, but they give a lot of opportunities. Pre-what counselor? Oh, so PREETs, pre-ETS, pre-employment transitional services. You're welcome. And it's through the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, or MRC, or Mass Rehab. And it's our state vocational employment services. It's for anybody who has a disability. Typically, they do work, vocational, but they do some one-off things like benefits counseling, maybe housing, maybe helping people with driver's licenses. It's a hodgepodge, but mostly it's vocational. So they refer to us, their clients. They can be 18 and up, but they do have to be out of the school system. Otherwise, if your child's still in the school system, find out about PREETs. They do work-based learning experiences, which could be volunteer, it could be job shadowing, it could be internships. They have some good stuff going on. We also work with DDS. They fund us through what is called individualized supported employment. Individualized supported employment, or as DDS counselors will often call it, 3168, which is their code, which I don't know what it means, but and that is for individuals who want one-to-one services. It can be anywhere from like an hour a week to a few hours a week. We're not quite equipped to do more than like 2, maybe 3 hours a week max. But there are other agencies, great agencies that can do that. But DDS, we have, I think our caseload is only 7 or 8 DDS clients, and we're funded directly from them. And it's typically about job placement, but again, it's all about that runway. You know, is somebody ready for a job and wants a job and, feels comfortable enough and is, up to it right away? Or do they need a month or two? Or do they need many, many, many months? Who's to say? I mean, we eventually find out, but it can be tough. We deal with realistic expectations and realistic workplace expectations. So the last thing that we have, which is about to start in a few weeks, is called CCAP, which is Career and Community Access Program. We've partnered with a nonprofit agency in Easton called HOPE, House of Possibilities Easton. House of Possibilities Easton, from what I've learned very recently, I was actually just part of their morning meeting. They do amazing work with their clients in community-based day services, which I think is typically funded through DDS. They do some, it's all about day services they have, but we're partnering with them for typically now Boston residents, and we're going to do the vocational piece. They're going to do the community-based piece. 2 days on site at JVS and 3 days remote. It'll be the first time I'll be back in the office. So that's kind of exciting and scary. But while we're doing that in Boston, Easton may be closer to some of you. House of Possibilities Easton, they're, from what I've seen, they're really good at what they do. They were similar to JVS from what I hear, that they got off the ground and running with Zoom instantly. As soon as COVID shut things down, they did what JVS did. They just figured it out and made sure to continue to provide services. There's something called Ticket to Work, which my colleague Katie understands, but nobody else does. I think that's through some kind of benefit. But, you know, for anyone who wants, anyone who has a disability, regardless of age, or if they're our client or not, we run twice weekly workshops, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and every Thursday at 2 p.m. And it's kind of a rotating, it's sometimes I present in our workshop, sometimes it's my boss, sometimes it's a career coach. It could be about stress while job searching, ways to deal with stress while job searching, creating a targeted resume, networking during COVID, interview prep, you know, all these things. But anybody is welcome. I can also send the link to that. The March calendar for that, it should be up tomorrow morning, since we missed Tuesday's workshop. But we do that. It's just like a sign of goodwill to everyone in the community, just offering that, and you don't have to sign up. You can just show up. Any other questions? JVS, Disability Services, our program.
So when is the next transitions to work starting, and do you have spots?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So we're actually starting in 2 Tuesdays, 2 or 3 Tuesdays. So either be the 16th or the 23rd. And we are doing a retail and customer service session, all on Zoom, 6 weeks, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. I think it'll be 10 to 11:30 a.m., but sometimes we do an afternoon session instead. But we don't switch it. Once we start one, it stays. We should figure it out very soon. We do have spots open. There's a lot of interviews we're doing, but we still have spots open. I think it's always good to apply if there's even a chance that it may be a good fit, if there may be of interest. Because if it's full or it turns out it's just not good timing, we can always look at the next one. We're doing a food industry training probably end of April. We've been rotating these two just because we're good at them. We're going to try something new come late spring. Stay tuned. We're still trying to figure that out. But the other ones we've been rotating in and out, and it's just gone really well. We do graduations the day after their last day on Zoom. It's just a really nice feeling to be able to see each client from when I first met them during the interview to their last day of class or their graduation. It's pretty amazing. But, you know, feel free to reach out to me for random questions about that upcoming training, or, you know, I can send the application, whatever makes sense. Can individuals participate in more than one type of training, or is it limited to one per person? Yeah, so it's almost always limited to one per person because of funding. There are a few different funding streams that we can sometimes figure out, but typically a year has to go by because they're our clients for 1 year. But yeah, we don't want to say goodbye to clients. We don't want to but typically we've had, I think, only 5 or 6, maybe 7 clients come back through a different funding stream, which allowed us to work with them in another training. Good question.
Have you tracked the success, like success stories of people that have taken the program and then had years of meaningful employment, or do they ever get hired from the places that they have their internships?
Great questions. I probably should have talked about outcomes also. So every employer we've worked with has hired at least one intern. Many of them have hired multiple, but I'll be honest, way more times than not, they don't, because it's got to be the right fit, the right timing. There has to be a position opened. Do our clients get preferential treatment like during an application process? Yeah, probably, maybe getting their application looked at sooner or make sure they get an interview, but the jobs are earned. Those employers typically don't do what we call job carving, meaning like carving out a job for an individual. They're too big. And, whether it's Whole Foods or Beth Israel or Newbridge, it's tough for them to do. And our main thing is if it's a fit, if it makes sense, like Newbridge, I think we only have 3 people still working there. 3 people still working there. 2 of them have been working there since winter of 2012. One has been working there since, I think it was summer of 2012 or fall of 2012. We have clients still working at a lot of their same jobs. We don't actually have like far out stats, but I think over the course of like 1 year, I think our percentage is about maybe 77%, 78% of those placed are still working there at least a year. 90 days, I think we're at about 88%, give or take, which is actually down. It used to be higher. And 30-day retention rate, we're at 92, 93%. So anybody that gets a job, 92, 93% are still there after 30 days. Our main thing is that we want it to be the right fit. If it's not, people will either quit or get fired. And it's not that they just go back to where they start. Sometimes they go back even further. Not always, but it can happen. By Judith. That sounds good, actually, sleep. But our completion rate for anybody who starts our session, our completion rate, I think, is 95, 96%. So anybody who starts our training, we push them through. We will call and hound them. We will do everything we can to get them to show up. We try and have real work expectations without the fear of them getting fired. We don't fire people. We don't suspend or expel people. Everything's a learning lesson. You're a no call, no show. Well, let's talk it through. In a real job, this would happen. Let's figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen again. So everything is tied back into work. You come to Zoom unprepared. Let's talk about how that would play out in a real job, and let's problem solve for tomorrow. But it can be anything, any type of expectation. But our completion rate, the 95, 96%, it's really, we push our clients a lot. And just like Yachad does, it's really, how do you push without pushing them away, right? It's trying to get them to keep moving forward without going too fast, too hard, making it being detrimental. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's reeling them back in because they're going too fast. So in our placement rate, it's way above the industry standard. But our placement rate, I think, is down to like 63% of all that complete get paid jobs, which isn't good. We used to be at 70%. So we're on our way back up, but COVID has been tough. So that doesn't take into account all the clients that don't want jobs. So 60, whatever it is, 62, 63% of all clients who complete get paid jobs. So that doesn't factor in those that don't want jobs. Other questions?
Any
Yeah.
other questions?
I can talk about some wonderful feel-good stories.
I have a feeling that people are,
May I ask one question?
yes.
One more. So you talked about the jobs that you work with being entry level, essentially. I
Yeah.
mean, you didn't use that term, but that is that.
Yes.
My situation is that my son has some higher level skills that if he could get those soft skills that Prietz is working on, but as with everything else with COVID has just, it's all being done virtually now. Well, for kids on the spectrum, they don't generalize so well. So
Yeah.
do you have anything where you can a program like yours to help with the soft skills and then to get help them get something with a higher level skill? Or you don't really I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. So we've worked with clients who do have higher level skills, who qualify for higher level jobs, which is great. Unfortunately, it's not just about the intellect or what somebody can do. It's about what somebody is qualified to do, but we're all about realistic. So if somebody is qualified, it checks off the boxes of what employer is looking for. It doesn't have to be entry level, whether it's, we don't have that much experience, but we look to our colleagues. JVS has, there's 170 of us that do workforce development. And so if we don't know someone, we look to someone that does. But some of our clients do that. Somebody who we work with, not in transitions to work, but in through the mass rehab, she got a job as a counselor. I don't think she would call herself a caseworker, excuse me. So it does have, but she had qualifications. The soft skills that are really tough to come by in the perfect situation, never mind on Zoom, the internships were the perfect place for it because it was real time, it was real situations. We were there always to be able to give feedback, or the mentors were. We give the feedback on Zoom and in one-to-ones. We do breakout rooms a lot, but it's a lot tougher to practice soft skills in that situation.
thank you again.
You're welcome.
If nobody else has questions, I think we are going to close for tonight. Micah is very accessible, and I'm sure we'll be happy to talk to people individually.
Always.
And I also am always happy to talk and brainstorm to see if one of these programs would be the right fit. Thank you so much, Micah. And
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for everybody for joining.
Yeah, this has been lovely. Thank you for allowing me to, as you can tell, I like talking about something.
Thank you anytime. And if you ever want to update us with new programs or anything, we're
Yeah.
here.
And can I send you just the application if anybody wants it?
Yeah.
You probably have Joanna's email about connections, but
yeah. And also, I'll put in the chat here I found on the JVS website a link with the all about transitions to work, and there's a link to your application on there.
Oh, wonderful, great.
Yeah. And also, I know there's only a few people on here, but please help me spread the word about Passover meals too. If you know somebody who, for whatever reason, needs a Seder meal or a Seder plate, anybody in the area can fill this out. This is a big agency-wide, community-wide effort, and it will be free Passover meal for 2 delivery. So
wow.
feel free to share that link around.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you again. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Good
Micah.
night.
You're welcome.
Bye.